Hi, folks. This is Future Sinistar. We had some internet technical difficulties, so this is pieced together from that live video. So please forgive us. On with the show. Hey, guys. I'm super. Thanks for asking. Today on. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Press B to Cancel podcast. Your favorite podcast if we'd started 6 minutes ago on time.
Wow. Automatically no longer our favorite podcast. We
That's
ruled
right.
out,
That's right.
vetoed.
Yeah. All right. I'm your host, Sinistar77. I'm joined by three of my favorite people today. Chard, how you doing?
I'm good. And this is not a green screen. This is real. This
Don't believe
exists.
it.
I'm pulling items from an actual shelf.
That is some amazing 3D technology.
Yeah.
So now Chardmonk's got his own bingo wall.
Yes, absolutely. We're gonna write up
Unreal Tournament is just our Unreal 5 engine, just amazing for the VFX you're doing right now.
Well, at least it's not Unity. So
Oh,
Yeah.
All right. I'm also joined by Werewolf. Werewolf, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about this. It's kind of a weird subject tonight that I don't think people tend to think about.
Right. We'll get to the subject in a second. Jake, how are you today?
Doing great. I'm glad to be back. Still a little bit under the weather, but hey, I'm all moved, so that's all that matters.
Yeah. It was
Jake's
a
got a
harrowing
nice-
journey.
Jake's got a nice background set up there too. You can see the arcade looking real nice. It's got that cool looking light. I like the setup in the new place.
Just don't
It's
look at his
all
lamp.
imaginary. It's all illusionary.
Just don't
All
look at his lamp.
illusionary. Yeah, I was
Don't
gonna
look
say he didn't get
virtual.
up to touch anything.
No.
Don't look
Yeah,
at his
never
lamp.
will.
We do not acknowledge that there's a lamp.
What
There's
lamp?
no
I didn't
lamp.
buy a lamp.
I don't know. All right.
You can't
So
bend the lamp. There is no lamp.
there's no lamp, only Zool. We today are taking on a subject that I feel like might become a series. We haven't really defined if it's going to become a series, but it might. And that is kind of a comparison of consoles' end of days compared to, say, its initial days or even its midlife. And we are focusing today on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System or the Super Famicom. And I think we had expected, because when we do this for the original Nintendo Entertainment System, that had some real bangers at the end. And I think we all kind of felt like that. We'll get to that as far as the Super NES. But it was a little shocking actually in comparison. So
Yeah,
so yeah,
you see a lot of discussion about like launch titles or the progression of use of technology over the time. I feel like you don't see a whole lot of discussion about like sunset titles for a console, right?
sure.
Right.
Yeah, although the original Nintendo Entertainment System, and I'm not going to go over that because we'll probably talk about that at some point, but it did have some absolute bangers, and they really kind of figured out, like, they manipulated the technology toward the end and really got
Yeah.
some amazing quality out of it.
I mean, it felt like it was the bridging of the gap between the 8-bit to the
Yeah,
16-bit. Like
yeah.
that was their then transitionary period into moving into the higher powered stuff.
Yeah,
Going
16
into the Super
16-bit, right?
Nintendo. So
Yeah.
yeah, they definitely were like, we could have done this here, but here's something that we could do it easier on. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
cool, nice little bridge.
Yeah. So, to start with, how about we do some impressions on launch titles? Let's start at the beginning. So, we went through some lists, and looking at the launch titles, there are some of the absolute most epic games. Who wants to kind of start talking about this?
I'm not a very good impressionist, so I don't know, but I might be able to do
Drama.
Super Mario World. It's
You
a
mean the
me.
best? You mean the best Super Mario 3?
I mean the worst version of Super Mario 3, yes.
Okay.
Well, let's really quick. We should. I feel like we need the disclaimer that we're going
Yeah.
by North American releases here.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, like, it's probably a little more in line with what European markets received,
Yeah.
but there's so many that were Japan only. We're not discussing those. We're talking about North America specifically dates.
Yeah.
Well, before we start, whoever wants to volunteer, I'm going to list the North American. There were 5 release day titles, and a couple that came shortly after. But the 5 release day titles are F Zero, Gradius 3, Pilot Wings, Sim City, and Super Mario World. The better Super Mario 3.
It's not. Mario Bros. 3 is
I don't
far
think that's
superior,
true.
but
I
Bros.
agree with
Agreed.
that.
Mario
Yeah.
World is still a solid title, and for
It
that to
is solid
be
title.
day one at launch for the American audience is fabulous. It's long and lengthy, different zones, wild variety of enemies. Not as many power ups as Mario Bros. 3, but that's okay when the game is just so expansive. Fantastic music. Mario World is one of the best Mario games out there. I think we did an episode on Mario brackets, I think, and that was
Hmm.
definitely
And
one of
we
the
did.
top games
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Just a wild title, but I want to mention Pilot Wings. I love Pilot Wings, and I know there's one in the N64, like a sequel. It's not nearly the
Hmm.
same. I really wish
Hmm.
that Nintendo would go back to Pilot Wings and give us a proper sequel to that game. I love Pilot Wings. All the vehicles are rad. It's one of the launch titles that took advantage of the Mode 7 graphics. It did it really cool. It's fun. It's not a simulation, but it kind of feels like it when you're flying around the biplane, for example. You have to be very careful how you angle your wings for a landing. Just an overall fantastic game, and it has, it even has, I mean, it's not boss levels, but it has those helicopter stages, which also feel really great and are really fun to play. Just an
For sure.
all-around solid package. Pilot Wings is one of my favorite games in the system, and it's one that I still play even today. I'll go back to it all the time. So, Pilot Wings is such a fantastic launch title, and
And then I'm going
why is
to
there not a
include,
sequel?
right. I'm
Well,
going to
it
include,
actually
go ahead.
did get a sequel on the 3DS
Did it?
called Pilot Wings Resort. Yeah.
Mm,
And
I
I
feel
want to
like
say that Wii
hmm.
Sports Resort also had like a
Some
flight
aspects.
sim that was
Yeah.
similar to Pilot Wings, but
Pilot
Yeah.
Wings expansion.
Now, I
Pilot
do
Wings
want to
Resort.
include because basically a week later, there were 4 titles that came out, and this is where we see a little bit of a shake on the amazingness. A week later, you get the Chess Master, which chess is fine. I'm gonna say chess is fine.
Chessmaster was my high school nickname.
Was it? I don't think
Yeah.
so.
I had a really broad chest back
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
then.
Uh,
Yeah.
Draken, which I played on the PC. We tried it out today, kind of as a group. That was a stinker. Hyperzone, which was just kind of weird, and Super R Type, which is great. So you did have a little bit of a shaky landing on the second week, but
Super R type. Out of obviously out of those four, Super I type will reign supreme on there,
yeah,
but it is quite the challenge to get even. I think I got to like level 3. I even tried playing that game for a charity, and I reluctantly thought to myself, you know what? I could be really good at this game, and I was not. It's a tough haul. So up, but those three, I would choose R type. It's probably one of the better out of
yeah,
the second week releases that came out.
yeah. Anyway, if you do look at kind of really the first couple months of the Super Nintendo, I mean, throw in there ActRaiser, you know, uh,
Tracer.
yeah, Super Bases Loaded, Populous. Now, I never played Populous. Do any of you have? I played it on the PC. Do any of you have Super Nintendo experience with Populous?
No, just the
No.
No.
Genesis version for me.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, but yeah,
But I mean,
ActRaiser.
there's some winners in there. There's Super Castlevania 4.
Yeah,
Oh
There's
yeah.
Super Off-Road, Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Lots of supers.
Super
Um,
Yeah.
Tennis.
Well, I mean, everything was married to the Super Famicom or the Super
Sure.
NES, so it's all going to be super. Like, especially coming out the gate, you're going to buy Super anything. But if it was an original title, Super Metroid, Super Castlevania 4, Super blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't a new title, if it was a continuing title, Super Mario, well, Super Mario World doesn't count because Super Mario was the title from the
Right.
beginning. It just now
This
instead of
was
a
this was
number,
super
it's
super.
world. Right. It's like extra super, but it's like having extra cheese on your burrito. It's extra super, but you could have had it
and
back there with just a little less cheese on it, but it's the same thing.
and within the first 2 months, you had Final Fantasy 2/4.
Yes.
Right.
Top 3 Final Fantasies out of the entire franchise, if you were to argue with me about that. Actually, I think,
And
GP would agree with me on that, essentially.
there's also a racing game that I've mentioned before, but I feel like it doesn't get enough love, called RPM Racing, that came
Mm.
out
Yep.
in November of 91.
Yep.
And I mean, it looks a lot like what you'd expect from RC Pro Am or that sort of thing. It's kind of rock and roll racing before rock and roll racing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think they're both Interplay.
Hmm.
I
Sure.
might be wrong, but
Let's see. Wait, hang on. RPM Racing was Interplay. It was distributed by Silicon and Synapse, but Interplay was the producer or the creator.
Right.
okay. Well,
When did you when did UN
what?
Squadrons hit the
UN
shelf?
Squadrons was early.
Early,
UN
like
Squadrons was
Yeah, it's
it's
September.
only listed as September, so it is in the first month to month and a half.
I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty early on in the life cycle, so
So
that's a great game
it's
too.
there's a lot of strong contenders and a couple of garbage games that
Sure.
were released. I mean, you can always expect some garbage games coming into a console's life period. Like,
Yeah.
but I feel like Super Nintendo's lineup was relatively strong out of the gate and stayed strong, right?
It came out swinging. I mean, that's really what it is it came out swinging, right?
well, it had
Like,
to, right? Because Nintendo really had to explain to families across the globe why they need to buy a Super Nintendo, why you need to buy something that will not play the same cartridges from the NES. You need to upgrade, and these
yeah,
games are your reasons why. Like it really brought
yeah.
a lot of new things to the table, like graphics, music. Mode 7 is really cool, and they
Mhm.
really had to show it right from the get go. I think the only thing
And I
missing from the launch was
Contra.
Zelda.
Super
Link to the Past
Contra
was
was on
later
there.
on.
Yeah, Zelda Link to the Past
That
was
was
later on.
93, I think.
Was it?
But
Okay.
I love that like they had a division of here's some regular style 2D games, but F-Zero and Pilot Wings, they're like, here's your mode 7.
Great.
Enjoy the mode 7, right? Like,
Right.
and it was crazy because we didn't have 3D to that point at this time in our life, right?
Right.
So
I'd
yeah.
like to
Mode
correct
7.
myself. It was not 93. It was April 92. So it was 6 months
Mm,
in.
okay.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Still pretty close.
When did Contra 4, Super Contra, when did that, because it's not Super C, but it's still, is that Contra 3? It might actually have been
Contra
Contra 3 and not
3,
4.
the
Contra
Alien
3
Wars,
Yeah.
was April
a week
April of
before
92.
Zelda.
April of
Nice.
Okay.
92. Yep.
So
Okay.
so Zelda and Contra were both married together basically around the same time frame.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, if your parents delayed a week and took you to the store a week later, you could get both.
Fair. But I mean you had super like, Contra 4, Super Contra 3, Super Contra, whatever,
Yeah.
another super game that was added to the system just to keep that super moniker alive and keep it rolling.
Right.
There was too many good games. It's a lot like the end of 2023. There's just a lot of good games coming out
Okay.
for the first life of the Super Nintendo.
Another this is gonna be an asterisk whether it's good or bad, but April 1st of 92, Super Adventure Island.
There it is.
Get out of here.
And
Never
that's what
played it.
and that's what
Nobody likes
everybody
that
was
game.
waiting for.
Nobody. Nobody. I mean, it's better than the NES game, but
I was
Oh,
it's
gonna say
not.
I thought Super Adventure Island was the better of the grouping.
it probably
Eh,
doesn't have the impossible jump in it.
No, not the Crisco feet. It might takes out the Crisco
Yeah.
feet, possibly.
Uh,
That's
all
what
right.
That's what Shroomy calls it.
but super
Right.
strong launch for SNES.
Yeah.
Absolutely super strong launch.
So, I mean, I think that we'll probably kind of, organically talk about this as we go through, but let's shift gears and let's at least look at the list of kind of the end of life titles. And we're going to go in reverse order here because I want to bring up the first stinker, Frogger.
Mm.
Frogger, released October 6th, 1998.
98.
Yes, this was the very last North American release, and I find it amusing that this was not released in Europe or Japan.
Well, it's because they knew.
They figured it out before anybody else could. They figured it out.
I mean, this is a classic Majesco move, right? Oh, are we back?
Sorry, folks. Okay, the last thing I caught was this is a Majesco move.
Right,
Yeah,
and then
throw a
they
trash
threw
game
trash
out
out there.
there,
Yeah,
people will
there it
buy
is.
it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know
So-
why would they reach so far back? Like you've got
Well,
I mean you ended
But-
you ended the NES lifespan, like the original Nintendo Entertainment System, with games like Battletoads, which granted is a difficult game, but I mean it comes to that level, right? It's fucking Battletoads. It looks good. It
Battletoads
plays great.
Battletoads looked better than Frogger.
This is what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
why it's just like
Well, so it is not a port of the arcade or the Atari or what it is dressed up. Dressed up with huge quotes. With huge quotes for the Super Nintendo, because they've at least like rounded the corners on things. But
it's got black dots in its eyes. I mean, wow.
but first off, no music. And I'm not talking like there's no music during the gameplay. I'm talking you start this cartridge, there's no music.
Are those turtles or are those beetles? What is floating in the water? Like
It's a good question.
it's
I think you might
ridiculous.
be
I
muted,
thought it was
Jake.
Iron
Yeah,
Man
Jake, you're
masks
muted.
walking in the water for a minute.
Jake, you might
Or,
be muted.
There you go.
I am muted. Sorry. What's better,
Yes.
Sinistar? No music or 4 bars of music? What would you rather?
Wow.
Now you've
Wow.
put
Called
me
out.
hold on, you've put me in an awkward position, my friend.
You know, oh no. I have a thought. So there's two things going on, I think, with this decision, because it's 98 at this point, right? People are used to, at this point, with their PlayStation and to like with some games, they'd pull out the disc and put in a CD to play the music from their game, like from their CD instead of the game. Because you could do that with some, like X Games did that.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
And maybe it
Was
was
that
just a thing like keep your sound on and play your stereo next to you. You could listen to whatever you want. Make your own soundtrack.
That's a stretch. I think it's just more they just didn't want to pay anybody to make music for this
I'm
game.
sure.
And
I
then
mean-
and then they made some really awkward sounds for the Frogger movement too. Like, yeah. On top of it, the hitboxes are just janky. It's just
It's
just
not very
Frogger,
difficult
but
to be
worse,
fair,
right?
Yeah.
it's
What's that?
Frogger, but worse.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well, I
fine.
mean, like, Old arcade Frogger. It's not
Yeah.
even as good as that in my mind because things don't read as well.
What's
Yeah.
wrong with that alligator's face? I don't.
There's an alligator.
Yeah,
I
the
Oh
don't
my
dog.
get what it
gosh!
is.
Oh my gosh. That
I don't get it.
alligator's face is like
It's like,
all I hear
what-
when the mouth is open is yeah.
yeah. It's like a 1920s gangster. Yeah, see?
Oh my, yeah,
Yeah,
there is an alligator.
yeah, it's up top.
Yeah, see.
Yeah,
This
ah.
game's
show
not
him,
that bad,
Muggsy.
though. I mean,
Well,
okay, no music. You're right. Sound effects are questionable. The graphics, I mean,
the
They are what they
hitboxes are bad.
yeah, but you get so many lives, so it's not like this game is like, a difficult version of Frogger, because the original was quite difficult. This seems to be
Oh,
more
for sure.
of an attempt to get more people to play the game, so it is a lot easier than the original, I think.
I'm not saying that it's
I
not.
wouldn't play this. If
Yeah.
someone said that this was an attempt to get me to play this, they can go to hell.
I have a question for you guys. I know the goal isn't to compare it to other consoles, but to a degree we kind of need to. Have any of you guys ever played Frogger for the PlayStation?
Yeah,
No.
like the
No.
kind of the 3D or looking one. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
decent. Like,
It
it
was
felt like a
decent.
nice modern update to the Frogger formula.
Yeah.
Came out over a year before this Frogger.
Hmm.
They
Nice.
just
So it
didn't
wasn't the
have
same
the
company, even. It was a
technology.
different company that made the PlayStation 1?
Publisher was Hasbro, developer was SCE Cambridge. So
Yeah, totally different.
now Gorilla. It looks
Okay,
like.
the SNES one was Morningstar Multimedia and Majesco.
Yeah, and Morningstar Media is founded by Dan Kitchen, who is actually he's one of the guys. I think he was a programmer on Ghostbusters, and I think he also did Keystone Capers. So he's like an Atari 2600 generation developer. So this is a studio that he founded, and they kind of did games like this. They kind of did reimagining of Atari games and ports of Atari games.
They did a
Well,
good
you
job
Like,
can't
with
get
usually
Frogger.
when you reimagine something, you reimagine it
Yeah.
better.
I would have. This is like reimagined from a nightmare. This is
I
like
don't.
I don't think this is accurate, but this is how I remember it being played. And you're like, no, this is totally off base, man. You were so
It's like
wrong.
it's like my
Like a
kid trying to
technic-
explain his dream to me in the morning.
I
It's
feel
barely
like
coherent. Some of
Technicolored
it's just
vomit, man.
terrifying.
I feel like
This-
somebody went and was given like, I don't know, 4 months to do this game, including the graphics. And at the end of it, somebody probably looked at it and said, "What did you do?"
Yeah. What did I send you to do? It's like somebody was saying, "Hey, I got this idea. Well, we got to hurry up and get this game out. So just come up with a game." Yeah, but it's Frogger. I don't care. I don't care what it is. Just release it. We got to get it done. And then they release it and they weren't listening. And he goes, "Okay, my game's done." And they put it in and they go, "What the fuck did we talk about?" Like I don't remember having this discussion at any point in our lives where I said this was okay to make, and this looks like shit. This looks like your kid finger painted on top of a disc. This is awful. And he goes, "Well, that's what I got." And they're like,
Why are
"Well,
there
guess we're releasing it."
so many like construction tractors on the road in this game?
It's a busy street.
It's a lot of work.
The world of
There's a lot
Froggers
of work
hipping
going
and
on in the
hopping.
city right
No, no, no. I
That
have
represents all the work they didn't do.
no. I have a logical answer. The Joker was creating another caper, aka similar to the Dark Knight, where he used all the buses, but this time he used construction vehicles.
I think this is just an inside joke of this game is still woefully under construction. So play it at your own risk.
It is
All right.
disappointing that this is literally the last game released for the Super Nintendo. This is what the system goes out on,
This
and it goes
is
out like
your
a year after the
legacy.
last game.
Do
Like, I mean,
not
this is
go
the only game in
quiet.
'98 as well, right?
Into the night, Super Nintendo. Rage, Super Nintendo. Rage. It did not rage, it whimpered.
All right. Next on the list, because we're going in reverse order, it does not get better. In fact, we get another version of Frogger. And we get it through a game called Timon and Pumbaa's Jungle Games.
Mm.
Which we just found out was a PC game, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
was
Well,
it?
it was released on like everything.
No, it was released on Mac, Windows, and Super Nintendo.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Mac, Windows, and Super Nintendo. that is some company to be within. I'll tell you what.
So,
Now, is
I
this-
like that Jake brought up the Frogger portion.
Is
Totally
this
on purpose,
the
I swear.
Is this the Super Nintendo version of this
Yes.
game?
It
Yes.
looks
Wow.
the animation quality is quite good.
No, it looks great. You get the hyena drinking the water there. Timon's just trying to get some bugs. You know, he's just doing his thing. But Jesus God, man.
So,
Yeah.
Sinister, you should break down what this game actually is, though, because it's not just this.
Okay. All right. And this is one of our significant gaps. So sorry, there's a little bit missing here, but back to our program. All right, folks. Sorry about that. Apparently, there's a border war between Canada and the U.S. All right.
We're losing.
So to
Don't joke about that.
They're shutting down the internet.
Yeah. All right. So to bring us back to where we were talking about Timon and Pumbaa's Jungle Games, which is a epically amazing bad collection
Well,
of
it looks good. The animation's
it
I mean,
pretty
it
looks
does
solid.
look good.
okay, but
Let's not get crazy here.
wait until we go through the games. Okay, so we're showing here Hippo Hop, which is a reimagining of Frogger, and
Reimagining.
I'm not sure if it's worse or better. I can't determine
I'm
if
gonna
it's
go
worse
with
or
better
better.
because it already looks better than the Frogger we
Yeah,
just
I
watched,
mean, it had music, it had sound effects that make sense.
and it's got
You can
Nathan
tell what
Lane.
things are.
I mean,
All right,
sold.
that's fair. That's
There's
fair.
a
Oh,
gameplay
oh,
difference though in this one though,
wait,
right?
he walked over and rang the bells. I never tried that. I don't know what that does. All right. Okay.
I was gonna say, what does the bell do?
All right. So I'm going to read this description. It's a 1995 Partio video game. The game was released in 1995 for Windows. A Super Nintendo system port was developed by Tiertex and published by THQ. Was released in North America and PAL territories. It consists of 5 mini games featuring Timon and Pumbaa, as well as other jungle animals from The Lion King. The games are Jungle Pinball, which was not bad. I will give that one a not bad.
I
I
like that
mean, I
one.
like
Yeah.
pinball. I like pinball.
Yeah. So Jungle Pinball, the pinball game where the board is filled with animals instead of bumpers. So you're really smashing a ball into, a bunch of animals' faces.
Well,
So that's
My
up on the screen now
I
for the
love the
viewers right now.
bamboo arrow mouse that's on the Super Nintendo. I'm a big fan of that.
Burper, Burper, a shooter type game using Pumbaa to belch gas.
There you go.
Yeah, if you're familiar with Puyo Puyo, it's kind of like that.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Let's see. We went over Hippo Hop, and Sling Shooter, a slingshot game that really has rules we didn't understand.
Yeah, so that was one
This-
where it's like a carnival shooting game, which again, you're using a D-pad to mimic a mouse. Not good. And you're shooting various hyenas, hippos, birds, but I couldn't figure out what gives you points. Hitting a hippo gives you minus 200. Hitting a bird gives you plus 200. Is it like screw the birds in this game? Like it doesn't make any sense with the scoring. I could not figure it out.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
everybody knows birds are assholes.
it seemed
Sure.
like it might have been a case of if they are carnivores, you get points if you hit them.
No.
No, that makes a lot more
Wait,
sense.
wait. I just
Well, like
saw
large carnivores, I guess.
on Jungle Pinball one of the doors that opens to show one of the animals that you can hit with the ball. It was Pumbaa with a crosshair on his ass, and he wiggled his ass at you.
I mean, it's how I met my wife. So
I mean, if you
You
had
were
tail
the
like
one
that,
wiggling
wouldn't
your
you
ass,
wiggle it
right?
too? I mean, honestly.
yeah, I painted it.
Yeah.
Mm,
I had the paint. The paint's back here.
mm.
So this is the one that I had to look up and see if it was for PC first because it reminded me of the Monty Python collection.
Mhm.
And I was like, I gotta find out. And sure enough, it was. And it's weird because it looks like it was a PC game first, right? Like
Yes, especially since you
Definitely
like
does.
D-pad to like aim the slingshot, right?
yeah, it seems like it has a lot of mouse controls that you have to use the D-pad as a mouse,
Mhm.
which
Right.
not standard in most console games. Even
Also,
Mario Paint was like, no, you use an actual mouse.
Mario Paint said, "Nah."
But does this have mouse support, I wonder? Do you think? Because
oh,
at this point, end
Ah,
of life,
that's a
it would
good
have been
question.
there, right? I
I
wonder if it
feel
did.
like there were not a lot of games that made use of the mouse for Super Nintendo, so probably not.
I'll have to try it out at some point with the mouse.
Yeah.
This is certainly a
So,
thing.
so I just noticed because I was like, who the hell is Tiertex Design Studios? I haven't heard of Tiertex. I don't know about you guys, but in the last, what, 10 game list for the Super Nintendo, there are 2 Tiertex Design Studio games.
What's the other one?
Okay.
The other one is Brunswick World Tournament of Champions, the bowling or the bowling game.
It's bowling. Interesting. Which
Hmm.
I feel is probably a PC title. I wonder if they're specializing in PC ports to consoles. Maybe that's what they're doing. I bet you
It
that's what it
literally
is.
says only Super NES for that one.
Huh.
Weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. This game is not. I mean, I could see a market for this game. It's animated well. It's got a lot of character and charm to it. I don't think the mini games are particularly fun. Although I did like the pinball. I
Yeah,
would be upset if I paid full price for this, but I don't know if this is
for
a full
sure.
price game back then, right? End of life
Yeah.
of the SNES, you had N64 was already out, PS1 was already out.
Listen,
Would this have been a full price
listen.
game?
If the company is going to re-release a remastered version of Mario RPG and charge $60 for the
But that's
goddamn game,
That's
Nintendo,
Nintendo.
this
right?
motherfucker was $70.
I don't know about that.
Guaranteed. It's probably not, but I'm sure it was up there. I'm sure it was a standard price game because they're like, squeeze them for what they can. Sorry,
I
Nintendo.
guess.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of your practices. Don't
Don't sue us.
sue us. Don't shut us down.
All right. So next on the list, Kirby Dream Land 3.
There we go.
And it was a Kirby game. So it played well. It seemed to have a little bit of character. But that said, I know Wolf, you mentioned that it felt like it lost some of the character of a Kirby game.
Yeah, I felt like they went hard on a lot of the background art assets and stuff and like overly detailing the characters compared to what you would expect from Kirby. And then the gameplay was very slow for Kirby, like Kirby
Yeah.
64 slow. And that's the issue I had with Kirby 64. I got that at one point on the Wii and I was like, this is trash slow. I can't play this. It's
It's
boring.
it it is slow. You feel like you have to dash just to run at a normal pace
Yeah.
to make the game play at a halfway
Like
decent speed.
you don't play Kirby and expect him to trudge around like RoboCop.
Speaking of, nice throwback. Nice callback. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So I think it needs to be said though that this is not like a sequel to Kirby's Adventure on the NES, which I think was peak Kirby, to be honest. I love that one. This is a sequel to Dreamland on the Game Boy. So
Right.
it has that more zoomed in aspect to it, and the stage
Yeah.
design feels more closer to the Game Boy game. And I do like the original Game Boy Kirby,
Oh, what
and
is
this
that
is feeling
fucking
similar to that.
game?
Although you're right, Wolf, it is not nearly as fast paced, I guess.
There's a game, I think it's on the Super Famicom. I don't think we ever got it in the States. And I can't remember. It's the girl with the harpoon and she's running through the areas. It looks just like this. It literally the animation, the drawing, all of it looks like this. It's been very big with in the past with a lot of
Hmm.
retro gamers. I cannot remember it. It is a
Oh,
Japanese
Wampum,
title.
probably. But that's a Nintendo
No,
game
it's
though.
it's
No?
not. It's you're a little girl with a grappling hook, running around, swinging from point to point,
Oh,
trying to avoid.
Umihara. That's a
Thank
puzzle
you,
game.
Umi Harma.
Yes. Yeah.
This looks like the same artwork as Umihara,
You think
to
so?
be
Hmm.
honest with you. I do. It's the pastels, it's the pinks and the way that Kirby kind of looks, you know, he looks pastel. He doesn't look like your pink Kirby. He looks very pastel to me. He
And
looks like an
hand
Easter egg.
drawn. Yeah. Like this is
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah,
like
yeah.
Yoshi's
It's supposed
story
to look like
hand
yeah,
drawn.
it's
Yeah.
supposed to look like it's hand drawn. This game lost me because it reminded me of it was good, but it reminds me a lot of what they did with say Paper Mario for the Wii. Or not the Wii, sorry. The God damn it. The most recent system. Help me out here, guys. I'm having a
Switch.
brain fart. Thank
Switch.
you for the
Origami King?
Switch. Origami
Origami
King.
King.
Yeah.
Exactly. Where it's like they took a lot of iconic things out and added in hamsters
Mhm.
and a black rubber ball that follows you around and a cat
Mhm.
and some birds. It's like what? I didn't understand the animals that you could ride and utilize their powers with. A lot of them
Uh,
didn't make
Wait,
sense. I mean, there's
wait,
4 different bird types that I played and was like,
wait a minute. You're complaining about this, and you like to game with eggplant wizards.
"Listen, that's a totally different thing. We don't talk about eggplant wizards. We're not talking about Kid Icarus right now. What we're
I'm with
trying
you
to
though.
understand What? Why? Because Kirby's like the point of Kirby, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea of Kirby to me was to obtain you eat the enemies and you get cool powers out of them, right? Like you
Yeah,
pick your favorite enemy, you get the cool powers out of them. I felt like because of these side characters that you were running with, it eliminated all of that. Like there
Yeah.
was no reason for me to do that or had any choice. Do I run with these side quests or these side mission dudes or whatever? Or do I play it standard Kirby? Do I need them to make this game easier? Probably. But then it was like, okay, well, now I don't get any cool powers because I'm a fucking sunfish.
It's
what
too
is
many
wrong with
mechanics, I
what
think.
is wrong
Yeah.
with that sunfish's mouth?
This is what I'm saying. Like, it didn't make any sense. It's like Nintendo was like, you have to make a Kirby game, but you can't use any of the powers you have, and you have to use animals around the world. You're
Well, the
like,
powers
sure,
are in the
okay,
game though. They're still
we'll
cutting
get
and all that and
they're
all those
there, but
abilities.
do I got these other abilities.
Yeah.
Why would I change if I'm a sunfish? This is working out
Mhm.
pretty good for me, right?
Why
But the
use the
whole
sword
thing
when it
was
could be a
like,
hamster? Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to have a hamster with superpowers that throws me as a boomerang, or the cat that throws me like a boomerang,
So
gets me into some
I,
secret areas.
the weird thing that I find to be with Kirby 3 is that it's a sequel to Kirby Dream Land 2 for the Game Boy, right? Came out in 95. This came out in 97. The N64 is already out. The Game Boy is still going stupidly strong.
Right.
Why did they decide they've got this, superpower of a handheld, the new console, and they're like, nah, put it in here. The
Yeah,
dying system. That's where we're gonna
right.
put this one. I don't understand why they did that.
Yeah.
Was
This
Kirby
game
Dream
has
Land
too
2
much
on the
going
Game
on
Boy
for me.
Color or Game Boy? Do
Game
we
Boy.
know? The original game, so not even in color. So this is probably their attempt at bringing the color to Kirby, and that was the Super Nintendo. I guess it made the most sense if it was in development for so long because the
Wait, the Super
N64 is
Nintendo had
3D.
color to Kirby. Like,
Yeah,
did that not
Oh,
we're
have?
true.
talking
Yeah,
Dreamland.
but I mean
Oh,
this
Right,
this
okay,
right,
okay,
kind of loses
okay.
the Kirby look. Like
right.
they sort of did a they don't hard line any of the characters the way they usually do. It's a little more subtle and the
Yeah,
characters are more shaded and detailed like it's something that would have been on, Game Boy Advance or something
right.
like that.
Sure.
But it's on Super Nintendo and I know Game Boy Advance is basically just like a slightly underpowered Super Nintendo for the most
Right.
part. But I mean this looks like a low budget Game Boy Advance game. I don't
It
understand
does.
why they didn't just
That's
go for the N64 already
I can
or
see
just
that.
stick with the Game Boy because the Game Boy, I mean, the Game Boy Pocket was just about to release when this
Yeah.
was released. So the Game Boy Pocket, like Game Boy was still so strong that they were like, we need a handset, a console refresh for the Game Boy. They updated it.
Yeah.
Mhm. I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I don't know.
I
How
don't know.
was the success of Yoshi's Island? This is an ignorant question, and I'm sorry, but did
It's
it
I
was
so
think
it pretty
well,
Yoshi
right?
successful?
I think Yoshi Island did very well.
I mean, it
Yeah.
netted two versions of the game, right? There's two Yoshi Islands, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm Tell me if I'm wrong. I thought there was a
Just
Well,
Yoshi
no,
one?
Island too.
it's Super Mario World 2 Yoshi Island.
Okay, okay, that's probably where we
Yeah.
get the two from. So maybe they were like, "Hey, the artwork in this sold so
All right, this is one of our significant gaps, so sorry there's a little bit missing here, but back to our program.
are like soulmates. Like I like they're not the same thing, but they're the same. They're like the same thing. It's a California burrito and a chicken burrito. They're both burritos, but they're different fillings. I'm hungry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm using food as a real good reference for this today.
Well,
I'm
I mean, it
sorry, but
fits because
you know what I mean.
it fits because Kirby shoves everything in his mouth, so it
I
fits.
exactly. Maybe that's why I'm hungry is because I'm watching this guy literally eat everything.
He's
But
eating sunfish. It's fine.
or the sunfish is eating him.
That's
Let's
true.
not
And
Yeah.
then he has a
let
weird
me stop
squished face at the front of the sunfish.
That's
Right.
another weird choice with this is things carry around Kirby instead of Kirby swallowing things, right?
Yeah, it's almost like I don't know.
That sounds
It's like one
It's
thing
like
begets the
Bizarro
other
Kirby.
kind of thing.
well. It
It's just
sounds
too
like
much.
I have a concept in my life called a 2 a.m. idea. A 2 a.m. idea is one of those things where you're like, this sounds so great. I've got this amazing idea. And then you listen to it in the morning and you're like, no, that's not a good idea, right?
My wife and I, we call that shower math. That is
Okay.
shower math. Because
Well, this
I'll go
is
into the shower and come up with a plan, and I'll come out, and she'll say none of that fucking adds up.
well,
So
for
shower
me, the
math.
2 a.m. is because like you're like awake still, you're at the end, you're kind of at that like delirium stage. Maybe you've had a little enhancement, and the next morning. And so I feel like somebody was like, it'd be a really good idea
Let's put Kirby on
if
a hamster,
something carried Kirby around in its mouth.
guys. Kirby on a cat. Yeah,
Kirby on a cat.
yeah.
He's not even
Sold.
on a cat. The
Yeah,
cat's
he's kind of like
pushing him around like a cartoon
Well,
yarn ball.
also, when you don't pick the character you want, like say you pick a different character, if there's another character in the room, they fucking mean mug you when you're leaving with the other thing.
all
If you
right.
notice that, like when you select a different like animal to ride or be ridden by or whatever, it's like giving you the stink eye. I'm like, why are you
So
guilt tripping me because I want to roll with the hamster and not you, cat? What's your problem? Get your shit
so
together.
so real quick with Jake's internet and stuff, we have talked about entry titles. We've gone through the three remaining titles. This might be a good place to call it for this week because we have been having so many technical difficulties.
We will address and resolve the issues. Do we
Yeah,
want to save our top 100 for the next time?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Sorry, folks. Sorry, folks. We'll come to the peace table with Canada. We'll figure out the war between Canada internet and American internet. We'll figure it out.
We'll get it solved. We're
Yeah,
all in
We'll
new
figure it
places,
out.
so
Sorry,
it's
guys.
all good. Don't worry about
yeah,
it. Don't
yeah.
apologize. It's all
Jake,
good.
Jake, you're fine, man.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
We're
know.
all
don't worry
good.
about it, dude.
All right. Well, this has been Press B. Until next time.